Hey YouTube, Meef here. Welcome to episode 22 of our FTB Continuum quick tips and tricks. This episode, going to do a little bit of a review here on the squeezer and the fermenter, and then show what's going on with the diesel generator. So let's take a look here. A couple things I wanted to go over quick, and that kind of has to do with the farming aspect. If you watched my previous episodes, you noticed that this farm here looked a lot different. There's a whole bunch of corn here. Things have kind of changed a little bit. So, to kind of go along with a couple of the previous episodes, mostly just this episode 21, we kind of went over the basics of the squeezer and the fermenter, which you can see over there. I've got another machine here. It was actually the refinery. But let's quickly go over what we've got here for materials that are needed to create biodiesel. Right here, I'm using potatoes. These are really simple to make. Just pick them up, and we're going to throw them in the machine. The other thing we're going to need here is going to be some hemp seeds. So if you've been good little boys and girls and following along here, we've been growing our hemp plants and picking up these seeds. So I've kind of increased the size of this farm quite a bit just to get enough material here to keep making plant oil. And I'm just going to burn through here real quick. Okay, so that kind of netted me about a stack and a quarter here of hemp seeds, and then just shy of a stack of potatoes. So there's a couple things you can do in order to kind of speed this up a little bit. And you can either plant bigger, or you can pick up one of these watering cans. So basic watering can here. Actually, I have a hardened watering can right now. The basic, pretty simple, empowered void crystal. This is pretty much just it's a piece of coal. What the hell is that? Let's try this again. So your void crystal is just a piece of coal in the atomic reconstructor. That'll pick that up. Get back into here. This is just empowered with some charcoal, flint, stone, and an ink sac or some kind of black dye here. Just make sure this is charcoal. And you can pick this bad boy up. As you can see here, this is four buckets worth. Does an area of 3x3. The one I have here, the hardened one, it's really not that difficult to upgrade this Invar, bone meal, redstone. This one holds 12 buckets worth and does a 5x5 area. And as you go along here, you can see that these kind of increase. So this is 7x7, 9x9, and then the very last one, because I don't think you can get the creative, 60 buckets worth and does an 11x11 area. Not cheap. I guess you can craft this. Not that you'd ever really need to. And you can change this with hitting V. So right now I've got this set for 5x5. Right now it's empty. We got to fill it up. Cool thing about this is you can fill it up this way. So shift and then right click to fill this guy up. Or you can just go to the sink of a water source and right click. It'll fill the son of a bitch all the way up. You don't have to worry about it. No problem. Get out here, start right clicking your crops. Cool thing about these potatoes, you just kind of run along here. And you can visibly see that this shit here is growing way faster than it would if you just let it go. You do gonna have to kind of pay attention to the water level of it, but that's not really a huge deal because you just run back over to the sink, fill it back up, and you're at it again. No problem. So this works on pretty much any plants. It works in conjunction with the worms doing their business. So just hold that right click in and let it rock. It does a pretty good job. It's relatively fast. And until we can get some real automation going here on the farms, this is kind of where it's at. So just for goofing off, we managed to make that full stack here. So let's quickly run over to the fermenter and the squeezer. So we went over these in a previous episode. Really, we're using potatoes because they're readily available. They're easy to farm. But this is making ethanol. That's what this is doing. There's some other things in there. I think a melon slice, sugar canes, potatoes, and apples. Potatoes just make the most sense to me, just because of the way I've been doing this. So I've got a tank here. This is just kind of running up, so it's at just shy of a bucket. Let's go over here to the squeezer. This is kind of the same thing, so we're dumping in hemp seeds here and outputting plant oil here. And as you can see, it just does its business. And you want to just kind of keep these things going. So what you can do with these, if you have a chest, eventually I'd like to automate all this stuff, but the blue ports on here is always imports for Immersive Engineering, so you can set this up with chests. Later on this will get set up with some sort of inventory on it, so that it automatically pushes into there. I'm not going to do that right now. I don't have enough material to make it for it to make sense. So running this wide open, just letting it do its thing, and that's kind of what's going on here. So the next item of business is going to be the refinery. So this I just finished up. These machines are expensive, so it's 4 machines in order to get the ability to produce just over 1,000 RF per tick out of that diesel generator. This stuff is expensive. It is part of this better questing tiered system. It seems to work halfway decent. I didn't really test it out all that much, but from using this in the past, it has worked out pretty well. It's relatively cheap to make once it's actually done. So keep in mind, relatively expensive. You're looking at heavy engineering blocks, kind of a pain in the ass to make. The fluid pipes are cheap, but these iron sheet metal is kind of a pain in the ass to make. Diesel generator is significantly more expensive. If you're looking at the generator blocks here, probably most expensive part. They all have, well, you only need 2 because it's worth 2, so you need 2 kinetic dynamos. So just keep that in mind. I made a few extras, so I actually was able to put these together, but that's one of the big expenses here. The rest of this stuff isn't too bad. The heavy engineering block is kind of a pain in the ass to make. Radiator block's relatively simple, so keep that in mind. Let's look at the UI on here. So we're looking at 3 tanks. Now I've already got ethanol in here. We're gonna have to get some plant oil in here too, but I've also got some biodiesel that's already sitting in here. And I've got part of a tank. Let's throw this down here. Let's get this guy full. So that's worth 20 buckets. Might have been full. Oh, regardless, let's pick that one up. And, oh, shit. Let's get this off here. Okay. So it looks like we've got some material here in these tanks. Now you're going to notice that on the sides here you see blue ports. Both sides, blue ports. So one is for the one tank and one is for the other. One is for plant oil and then the other is for ethanol. Now I don't have the material to push this stuff automatically out of those tanks into here, and frankly I really don't want to at this point. Once I get some fluid ducts, it might make sense to automatically push this shit down underneath the floor and into this machine. But right now the simple solution, and because I'm using these thermal expansion tanks, it's really simple to just pick these guys up. Since they hold 20 buckets, I mean, you're gonna fill them up, but not that fast, and just right click or shift left click these into the machine, and that's all there is to it. So we don't necessarily have to worry so much about that. Just know that that is what's going on with these ports in the side, that you can pump fluids into these and you can pump the fluid out through the front. Again, if you just throw the tank in front of this bad boy, it will autofill. That's the cool thing about these tanks. They work well. So let's go take a look at the diesel generator, which is up on the roof. And I've kind of built a little ghetto steps up here on top of this raceway mezzanine I've got going. So I'm going to run upstairs onto the roof, and here you see this beast. So the way this thing works, I had to do a little bit of maneuvering here. So I've got the power cell set for input. Now there's 3 power ports on the top of here. This is the way I've done it in the past. This is the way I've set it up. I think you could split this off here. I don't think it would make a whole hell of a lot of difference. Now keep in mind that input here is 1,000 RF per tick, and I think this is reporting that it builds 1024 RF per tick. So there might be a little bit of waste here. I'm not sure if there is a big buffer on this diesel generator. One thing I should try is putting that panel on there to find out. But what I'm going to do in order to test this, because right now the power cell is pretty much drained, I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. Okay. So let's take a look and see. Let's shut that off too. It looks like those connectors don't actually work the way they're supposed to. That's interesting. Good to know. So this is building about 1,000 RF here. Second, it's doing a pretty good job. So I've got this set up. Blue port here is actually the input, and I'm using this tank as a buffer, so I can pull this tank off. I should switch it out. I didn't make anything. I just wanted to get this started up and ready to go. Right now I got this set to on, so the machine is set for off. And let's fill this guy up. Leave that up there. So that's going to load into the machine. It's going to do its business. And I think we can easily test this. Yeah, okay, right now we're just shy of 200K. Let's fire it up. And you can see by the smoke coming out the top that it's going. It's kind of a noisy son of a bitch. But we can see here that there is significantly more power being generated off this beast. Okay, so let's run a quick test here. Let's pull this guy off there so we can get him back downstairs. We'll just let that run for right now. And you can hear it for about 15 blocks away, so now I can't hear the damn thing anymore. It's loud. So if you're playing with sound that's on, just keep in mind that son of a bitch thing is fucking loud. And let's see, there was a screen that I want to slap onto that generator just to see. I'm going to disconnect it and we'll check it. And one of the bitches about building these bigger bases, the fact that you have to run around, but happy with the way things have been so far. When I have to actually go through and automate, that's going to be a whole different story. So we've been gone for a little while and we're up to 2 million RF already, which is pretty damn cool. But what I really want to do is see if... No, that's no dice. I wonder if we put it on the front. Oh, not happening. Not happening. Well, now we know. That's max out. No problem there. So we'll just trust that it is 1024. I would say that there probably is an internal buffer. There should be like 40 buckets worth of biodiesel in here. I don't know how long it's going to run. That's something that, you know, should probably be tested a little bit. If we shut this off, turn it back on, yep, it'll just keep doing its thing. So, but anyway, generating some serious RF here in comparison to what we were with some of the other machines. This guy, it's no contest here. This is a good backup, I guess, to have just in case. Let's plug this back in. So yeah, if you have a few of these bad boys up here and you can support it with enough biodiesel, this is a decent machine to kind of get you midway. I guess I wouldn't necessarily run this in conjunction with that void miner constantly, but do what you gotta do. If you can support it with the farming stuff, go for it. Just keep in mind that there are some tools available to kind of assist with some of that stuff, like the watering can. It is helpful. It does a pretty good job. I suppose I should turn that stuff back on. It looks like it finally shut off. So 40 buckets doesn't go all that far, but it looks like with the other stuff, 40 buckets generated 5.1 million RF. I'm happy with that. It did a pretty good job. I think actually pumping that biodiesel up here would be a better solution at some point, so you'd have to constantly run up and down. And then being able to actually put a redstone signal onto that without having to go upstairs. But the wireless redstone signal stuff is stupidly expensive, so I'm not going to piss with it. But yeah, that's the 4 machines to make this stuff work. Definitely check it out. It works well. Just a little bit on the expensive side, but that's okay. It's going to help because you're going to need a whole shitload of RF anyway, so keep that in mind. So that's it for this episode. Catch you next time.